Hey everyone, my name is Matt Romanchik, and I am the founder and host of The Conscious Vibe. This is the podcast where we delve into the people of everyday life and explore their passions for creativity, health, science, spirituality, and how they're trying to make a more conscious difference in the world. I would like to welcome you to this conscious earth. Shout out to John Arn for that awesome opening track. If you would like to hear that and all the other music featured in this show, you can head over to my SoundCloud and YouTube pages. Just search This Conscious Vibe and you'll find all of that. Our show is sponsored by Burke Superfoods. You can get a wide array of health and nutritional supplements ranging from chia seeds to cacao powder, all sorts of good stuff. If you just head over to apollogenesis.com, use the coupon code STAYCONSCIOUS to get 10% off at apollogenesis.com. Nourishment for the spiritual warrior. Speaking of music, all the music featured in this episode is written and composed by our guest this week. His name is Christoffer Hylander, and he is a musician from Sweden who goes by the name of Killigrew. Those of you who are familiar with the Chillstep community have likely heard a decent amount of his songs. He's a composer of chillstep, melodic dubstep, piano, and orchestral music, and occasionally even metal. He considers his music to really have a strong connection to the scenery in which he grew up in Sweden. The deep forests, foggy lakes, mountain peaks, and I would say that his intention with his music is really to bring you into that space. Without further ado, I would like to present to you all Killigrew. You hadn't released Animus 2 the last time we talked, and I've listened to it like a million times since then, probably. I don't know, a lot.
It seems like it's being accepted.
How's the feedback been?
I haven't been negative, but I think a lot of people still hold the old music in nostalgia, and you can't really beat that no matter how good music you make.
I feel like I kind of got into your music probably, recent enough that it all kind of it sits in the sort of like the same place for me.
A lot of people found my music in like 2013 especially, and
right.
It's over 3 years now, so and I know a lot of people were kind of young, and I know the music you listen to in your mid-teens, they really get stuck in your head, and those people are like a bit older now, and it's hard to make something that they will like as much.
You got to do it for you, you know, at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about your sort of origin story.
Basically, I grew up with my mom and only my mom. I was her eldest son. She has two younger kids as well, but they're like 6 and 8 years younger. So basically, all she had was me, and my dad exists as well. I live with my dad right now, but in the first like 5-6 years of my life, it was only me and my mom. And she would always listen to really melodic music, especially pop and rock music, and mainly like Swedish popular music. And I mean, I would be the kid, I would like almost dance along in the car because the melodies really like made me feel and move. So I'm not sure if that's something I'm born with, that I feel really like engaged when I hear a good melody. And I think I've been like that since I was like really, really small. So I'm not sure if that's something my brain has trained itself on, or I just liked really catchy music growing up. But around like age 10 or 11, I got into the Finnish rock band Nightwish, which is Finland's most popular band of all time.
I think the first Nightwish song I heard was Gethsemane, and that was like the one that really stuck with me.
It has a great piano intro, like
yes.
And that is really the genius of the composer, Tuomas Holopainen. 1.5 years ago, I saw them live for the second time, and I was like in the front row, like maybe 2 or 3 meters away from him when he was playing the keyboard, playing the piano. And I just kind of like wanted him to know how much he changed my life. I mean, he looked at me. I mean, he clearly looked at me, and I was like, I wonder if he knows like that I'm making music because of him right now.
Wow.
And I mean, he doesn't know. He has no idea who I am, but which is fine. But I would like to just have like an hour, just sit down and talk, and that would probably be really nice. But my dad was like a punk rocker when he was a teenager, so he wanted me to be the same. But the only band that he played me that I liked was Nightwish, and it's still one of my favorite bands of all time. I think at that age I was like, I want to play piano as well, but it would be many years until I did. But I remember like the seed was like, it was planted in me when I heard Nightwish and I saw him play piano, and it was really enchanting and intriguing. And I had a friend that played piano, and also I felt like piano seems hard, like I could never learn it, like I didn't really believe in myself. But yeah, I would grow up a little bit more, and I guess when I was like 15, I was still really into metal, and I got more into the metalcore and like more extreme stuff. But I was still listening to piano music and film music and stuff. Like I liked a lot of music. But I guess the big change in my life was also when I was 15, and I got into the whole like emo movement, and in Sweden it was actually really big here. And basically over the winter holiday, like for like the 3 weeks or 4 weeks that we were away from school and we were like home during Christmas celebrating, during that month I like changed my clothing style a lot. I dyed my hair dark and would straighten it. I would not use my glasses anymore in public or anything. I probably lost like a lot of weight. I just looked like a new person. So when I got back to school in the spring of 2008, a lot of people thought I was new there, even though I've been there for 2.5 years already. And I got this like sense of like self-confidence. Not like I wasn't arrogant. I was never like that, but I would just feel like I could take on the world. Like you feel a bit immortal. they gave me the confidence to start. Like, I'm gonna start to play an instrument right now, because at that time my dream was to make a rock band. And like the first month I started playing bass guitar. It was the same time I was like, okay, let's make a band. And it went horribly because everyone played different stuff at the same time. And after like 2 or 3 times, we were just, this is not gonna work. I mean, most people were better than me because they had played for a few years, and I was just like, I guess they saw me like a poser. I was just, people didn't really take me that serious, not even teachers. They wouldn't look at me and think that this guy is serious about music. Like, I don't think that they would do that. Because I could see how the teachers weren't taking me serious at all. But from that time, even though I gave up on making a band at that time, because I felt like I'll just keep on working on my own. And that I did. I practiced like every day, a few hours. And 1 year later, I stopped playing bass guitar and just, okay, piano is what I wanted to play since I was a kid. I'm just gonna start playing.
What did you want to be like growing up? How did you think you'd be successful, or like what did success mean to you?
Like, I never really cared about success in that way. Ever since I was like 10, I wanted to be an archaeologist. I was really into, even since I was a kid, I was really into Egyptian mythology, Greek mythology, and later more like Scandinavic, because I'm from Sweden, so eventually I would end up researching that as well. But yeah, I was really into like ancient civilizations, and wanted to learn more about that. I would watch every movie I could find about it, and I would like really live in these like fantasy worlds almost. And that's what I wanted to do. Until I was 15, I thought I was gonna study history, and somehow music started to feel much more intense and emotional, like it has never been before. By end of 2007, I just felt this connection to music that was never there before. I mean, in a way, fantasy brought me more into music, because I was like 11 or like 10 or 11 when Lord of the Rings came out, and everything about that, the music, the scenery, mountains, everything together really struck a chord in me, and I started reading all these fantasy books, and I think that probably pushed me towards the more artistic direction. While a lot of my friends were partying, drinking, getting drunk and whatever, I never did that. I just, during the recesses in the school, I would lock myself into the piano rooms and practice for 1 or 2 hours before the next class. And I would stay late after school, and when I were home, I would play my old, broken, out-of-tune piano until I could buy my own piano. I did that every day, and after 2 years, I made my first piano album in spring 2011, my final school project. And I think by that time teachers saw how much I had worked and learned, so I got my first like highest grade or mark, which I'm like this. I'm really mediocre in school. I'm good at subjects I like history and religion and stuff, but on math and physics and chemistry I get really bad grades because I hate it. I graduated in 2011, and like I didn't have the strength to continue to study at university, so tried to be home for a year, and during that year I went to America with my mom and her 2 parents. And after being there for almost a month, I actually composed some music when I was in America. At the same time, I discovered electronic music, because until that time I was a pure metalhead.
Yeah.
And I discovered blackmill and faint, and that was sort of my gateway into dubstep and drum and bass, and noticed they had a lot of piano in their music. And piano was all that I have been focusing on for the past 2 years. I liked their combinations of bass and piano and drums and everything, and it was like a totally new world for me, and I wanted to learn it at any cost. So I made my first dubstep song, Melancholia, and then I made my first like relaxing, like ambient drum and bass. I think I called it Sleepless. Sleepless got promoted like instantly and got like 20,000 views in a day, and for me that was like, whoa. Anyway, it got me like a taste for learning to make electronic music, so I kept working through the whole spring and made like maybe 1 song a month or 2 songs a month. And my goal was to learn to make music like blackmill and faint, but I was still so far away from that. I was almost 2 years away from learning that. Like practicing every day, I was still 2 years away. Sweet Solitude is basically how I sounded after learning electronic music for about 2 years. That's when I felt, okay, I think I found my sound now.
I think what really attracts me and attracts other people to Chillstep, other than just the sound of the music itself, is the community. I've never gotten like a bad comment on my channel, and even if you go on like Mr. Suicide Sheep or like Mixhound or any of those channels, the people are just very warm and loving. There's an atmosphere of almost like brotherhood.
At that time, my channel was growing a lot, and the community of Chillstep was really like big and loving and warm, and I felt like they actually really accepted me, and it was nice. Yeah, and I feel like the genre itself, mainly Chillstep, it's like basically the only genre of music that stands for peace and unity, and like, you know, Earth itself and the world. I get really inspired when I think about beautiful scenery like foggy forests, like in Sweden. It's like a sunset, and it gives so much energy. In truth, I think I had a pretty good childhood, and I grew up in a really peaceful place. I think it's a big part of it. And when I think of my childhood, it's basically me living in a small red Swedish house, like quite far away from other houses, like in the wilderness, basically among forests and fields as far as you can see. And I remember running through the fields and like our 2 dogs like chasing after me, and that's how I grew up, and that sounds really good. But also the music I grew up on. When I think of Nightwish, I think of like foggy forests deep in Finland. And I want people to feel the same when they hear my music. Not necessarily Sweden, but I want them to feel like, oh, let's go on a road trip, let's go to the mountains, let's go deep into the forests, and an adventure. But also thoughtful, and look at the stars and wonder about your existence. Because I do that almost every day.
Your most recent album, it recently snowed, and I like decided to take a walk to the grocery store, and I just put on that album, and I was just walking around my town watching the snow as I was listening to your music, and it just felt like it was meant to complement it.
I often feel like I am not the creator, I'm just like the middle way between, like almost like a higher power, and I'm just the means to an end to make it come true, because it was almost already decided. Some people would say like maybe you're just creative, and I've always been creative. My mom thought I would be an architect because I like to build stuff when I was a kid, and now I realize that what I'm doing now is actually building stuff, but with music. And that's probably maybe why I like it, because I like to build stuff, and that's part of the fun to create. Since I don't have lyrics on most songs, it's really up to the listener to decide how they interpret the meaning of the song. And I think that's pretty beautiful.
That's exactly one of the reasons I like Chillstep, is that I feel like the lack of lyrics, or sometimes even when there's just a sample, I mean, you've used Alan Watts a lot, and a lot of people do, it kind of like leads the listener in a certain direction, but it's like very gently guiding them.
It can really give the song a lot of purpose and power. Especially what I like to do in a song Deeper Still is that the speech comes in the bridge between the intro and the chorus, and the chorus comes when the speech is done. And I feel like it hits so hard emotionally.
You said a lot of your songs sort of are inspired by this sense of wonder and nature and like looking at the stars and things like that, and I think even your song titles will suggest that. Angel's Song, like Voices of a Distant Star, you know, Transcendence, Cosmic Truth.
Sometimes I have other names for them, and then when the song is done I feel like, well, this name fits better now that it's finished. Like Hope, for example, was actually called Grace at first. When I heard it, when it was done, I felt like, no, this song actually, I feel like hope. I think Coming Home, I actually finished it the day I was going home on Christmas, so I exported it when I came home, and I felt like, Coming Home. I think I was in a train back home, like 1 hour train ride, and in the train I came up with the name Coming Home. It was perfect because I was coming home to my family to celebrate. I really tried to think about the big picture, the universe. That's the big mystery for me. There's too much about it that we don't know. Why is there even sound? How come specific sound sequences make music? Like, that's also kind of a universal question.
Have you ever seen that this researcher took different tones and played them while ice crystals formed, I think? And just to see how different tones of sound impacted the formations of ice.
Everything is connected somehow.
Yeah, it's really cool.
When I'm thinking about the universe, I'm just thinking about all these planets out there with this amazing nature that we can't even dream about. Way too many planets out there. I think it's important to like look up to the stars and wonder about their existence. That is a very human thing to do. All the great civilizations did that. Maybe the best day of my life was when I flew to Switzerland. Exactly 2 years. I think I was in Switzerland this date 2 years ago, in the first week of February. I first flew from Sweden, Gothenburg, to Copenhagen in Denmark. It's only 30 minutes away, but I went there to catch another plane to go to Zurich in Switzerland. I remember flying like over Germany. Oh, and we were just above the clouds, and the sun, this was early morning as well, so at first it was really misty. I remember how amazing it looked, and the city lights in the morning and everything. It was really dark, but the city shine up like fireflies almost. And then on the way to Switzerland, the clouds looked unreal. It didn't look real to me because we were above them, just above them, and the sun shined on the clouds, and it looked like paradise almost. And then when we lowered through the clouds again, like you could see the mountains just like coming up, almost like you were supposed to crash into the mountain. And I remember that was almost like a holy moment for me. And then I stayed there a week and visited one of my best friends, which is also a composer by the name of Adrian von Ziegler.
Talk about like one of the most difficult experiences or times of your life.
Well, that was probably 2014 when it was a Friday evening, like in early May 2014, and that call I received, my mom called me and said that Carolina has been in an accident, and Linda as well, and they were both at the emergency and at the hospital, and she said she would call me in the morning. And I go to bed with that information, and then I wake up by the call as well, and she said Carolina didn't make it. And at that moment, I hadn't talked to her a lot in the past 10 years. She was 28, by the way, so she was always almost like 8 years older than me. Like growing up, she was a big part of my life. When I was a kid, she was there always. So hearing that she didn't make it and Linda was still might be in trouble, that was really difficult for me, and I didn't know how to handle it. So I remember putting on songs by Blackmill in my phone and listening in my earphones while going out, and kind of just ran. I just went out and ran. And I had Blackmill songs on, and I didn't realize the impact it would have, because it made me think all the beautiful parts of life she would now never experience, because the music I heard reminded me that life can be very beautiful, and that made everything so much harder. I remember I wrote a lot of songs that week on my piano. This everything sort of kick-started my first relationship to fall apart, because I was not the same after that. And I only made 2 songs that year, and I was Hurt and Deeper Still, which has become like 2 of my most well-known songs.
Yeah.
Those are made like on the back of me being totally broken. Yeah, those 2 songs are made on the back of me experience my sister's death, and my first relationship ended, and that relationship still haunts me, because we had been together for almost 2 or 3 years, and I had been in love with her since I was 15, and we got together when I was 19, and then at the time it ended I was 22, so it's still hard to move on from all of that. But I remember when I was 15 and she was 14, yeah, this is a really long time ago, 2007. We were actually almost together back then, but that's exactly a few weeks after we started to know each other. I got into the whole like metalcore scene, emo, whatever you call it, and that changed me. And it wasn't always a good change, because I felt like we were too different, maybe, and we just kind of stopped talking. And then when I was a bit older, I saw how lonely she was, and it really hurt me. And I would see her at school, like she would always walk alone. But so I would, it took way too long. I should have reached out to her much earlier, but I guess I was too afraid. And she then asked me like to like go out and have a coffee. So she was the one asking me out. That first year was really good and probably one of my happiest years. But yeah, let's just say she didn't really, I don't know, she didn't look at it the same way after a while. And I think it's because I got so much more into music. Even though we lived 10 minutes from each other, like 10 minutes from each other we lived. And she would be, after a while, the kind of person that like, let's say like, if you don't call me every day, you know, every morning, night, then maybe you don't love me. And the way I show love is writing music, and almost every song had her name as like the demo track. And if you can't see the value in that, then maybe you just don't fit together. I don't know. I'm really into a lot of Native American cultures, and even the end of Animus 1, we have Exiled and Spirit Walker's Path 1 and 2, and those are really inspired by shamans or druids. You know, druids is more the European Celtic culture, and it's a dream of mine to sort of go and live in, like, I guess in a one of those villages with Native Americans. But I don't know how accepted I would be as like a blonde Swede. But I really feel in tune with a lot of the way they are, their pain and everything.
What do you really value, like above all else?
Truth. Truth is the ultimate universal question. Truth, and like why? Why anything? Why are we here? I don't think there's an answer. Like, I don't think, oh, you're here because this and that and that and this religion and this other 10,000 religions and gods, and like, no, I don't care about that. That's just human. That's human to say that stuff. I want to know more than that. But the universe is too big to comprehend, and a lot of people I meet, they're like, when you get into the whole religious talk, and they don't see humans as an animal. I see humans exactly the same way. We look at a cat or a dog. We look like this now. Once we did not look like this. Once we did, like, you know, we evolve. And I meet people, and a lot of religious people are really into my music, and they're actually like the most like devout listeners. Most people here are atheist or agnostic. I'm agnostic, and I don't want to talk about religion in that way. I don't know why people have to have an answer to like a moral code. Like some Christians, for example, say like, if you're not Christian, how do you have a moral compass? But I mean, Sweden used to be the most like friendly country, and most people here were not religious at all. Moral compass is something you get by like having a good parent, for example. It doesn't have to do with religion at all. A lot of Christian people, especially in America, that like my music, they connect to it deeper than most, but I don't need that to feel kind of the same. I'm just in awe. I'm in awe of the universe, and it inspires me greatly. I think what a lot of people forget might be that they don't take themselves as serious as they take nature itself. Like, we're a part of we are the universe, like as much as a star you see out there, like that's not the universe more than you are. We are stardust. And when I realized that a few years ago, damn, that was amazing. I think the big question for me is also like, do we have a soul? I'm not sure. Like, what is consciousness? That's one of the more bigger questions for me. I have experienced things like things that people will say like, oh, it's a ghost or whatever, but I have experienced that. I have seen things 2 or 3 times in my life that I can't explain by science. And since I'm not religious, I'm like, what did I just see? What did I just like? Yeah, if you know me, you would know I pretty much I don't tell lies. I value truth, like I said before, and I'm not religious, and I do not like believe in ghosts or whatever. But tell me why I walked at the bottom of an old castle once. I walked in the prison chamber alone. How come someone holded me on my shoulder? Like someone clearly like hold me on my shoulder.
You felt someone touch your shoulder?
Yeah. And I was alone in that corridor.
Wow.
And the thing is, people who work there, everyone who works there, they have seen and felt things. That's kind of weird. Like, what is that? Because what I'm thinking more of from a scientific perspective is that we have these senses, like we have sight, we can touch, we can hear, we can feel, we can smell. That's our senses. But I mean, if you go to like a worm or something, they have like one sense or something, and that's their world, and we have our world in our senses. But that doesn't mean that's everything. We can't see everything, you know. There's probably layers upon layers upon layers on reality, and that's what I want to know. Like, there's something like kind of in the same place as you are, but it's very hard to notice. And we go around, like humans seem to go around, like, oh, we can see everything. We can see the whole universe, like in all its form. But imagine if we had more senses to the physical world. And what if we could see deeper into reality? There's probably layers upon layers. And maybe there's a being living there that we call like ghost or spirit, and it's not even related to humans at all. What if there's like energy beings or something? I don't know, that's really weird to say, but it could be anything, and we don't have the answers.
I think of this kind of stuff a lot, especially when I'm out in nature, and I think of like trees, for example, and how a tree has no way to perceive the sun even exists. It has no eyes, like it can't tell there's a sun, yet it still grows towards the sun.
And you have like blind animals, and they have the reality. Like, imagine telling them how it would be to see. You can't comprehend, and we can't comprehend what's beyond our abilities to view the world. I think about that a lot, and I'm thinking, how many people are thinking about this like me daily? I think it's human to say, oh, like write a book about religion. I don't think you can put anything to words that you have, like anyone has seen. And people try to make it human, like humans are special compared to animals, and like we are an animal. I know, I don't like how a lot of religions put humans in the center. If anything, we should act responsible, and as like the more like intelligent species on Earth, we should actually try to take care of the Earth and not ruin it like we are doing. I've been trying to read up a lot about the Aztec culture lately. But for example, you know, back then, 500 years ago, there were no horses in America.
Right.
But the Spanish, like after Columbus, they came back with 17 ships from Spain. And they brought, I don't know how many horses you can fit in 17 ships, but maybe a few hundred, maybe less. And the thing is, a few of those horses ran away, and they ran north. And they ran north from Mexico, so they ran like up into America. After 150 years, those handful of horses were now 6 million.
Wow.
Imagine the first the first native tribes and societies that saw these horses just suddenly come into their land. Native tribes have been living there for hundreds, if not thousands of years. They've never seen a horse. Suddenly they see a horse for the first time, and it's like they instantly know that we can tame this creature, we can ride it. And in just like 100 years, that becomes their culture. That I think is amazing, and I would like to see a movie about that. The first like tamed horse by a North American tribe, you know, and they spread out from Mexico into Canada even, and become millions in just 100 years. That's insane. Horses, you were crazy. And then, by the way, I grew up with horses. I always had horses when I was a kid.
Really?
I was even riding a bit. I used to sell stones to horses. It sounds weird, right?
Sell stones?
Yeah, it would be in a big field, like maybe like 10 or 15 horses there. And me and my friend, who were 2 years younger than me, we would like find these beautiful stones. There was like trees in the field, and we would put big stones by the tree, and the horses would somehow form a line and come up to us and be like they would come up to us individually in a line, and we'd be like, okay, like say hello, like hello to the horse and their name. Okay, you can get this stone, and we put it here, and then the horse will go away. And next horse comes, like, okay, you get this stone.
Oh my god,
that's what I did when I was like 8. One thing I'm really sad about is a lot of countries were safer 100 years ago than they are now. We are going in the wrong direction. Like chaos, destruction, death. Well, I think that by now we should be like in like enlightenment. We should all look to be equal and look to the stars and explore, and still we have wars and poverty and all the bad things, and even worse than it was before, probably. Greed is basically destroying everything as well. We do have some people, like they're entrepreneurs, and they're like funding, instead of NASA doing things, we have all these private institutes and whatever.
Like Elon Musk.
Yeah, Elon Musk is a hero, basically. We need more people like that. Make things, make the world better. A lot of people, I think people don't realize their own, how much they can do as one person. They just think, oh, someone else have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, even when I'm walking around, like, my town, or going hiking or whatever, like, I see garbage everywhere all the time.
Why do people throw garbage, like, randomly? Like, what?
It's so annoying. And I've started bringing a bag with me, just because I pick it all up. Like, I ended up just picking up so much garbage and, like, filling up my coat pockets whenever I'd go out. It's like, now I'm like, okay, I have to like, bring a backpack. But it's just, like, the amount that I've cleaned up just by myself, like, not even trying, just when I go for walks, is, like, I've cleaned up a lot. If I'm one person who can clean up a lot, like, imagine if everybody was doing that. When I've talked to a decent amount of Chillstep musicians, a few of them that I asked if they would be interested in doing something like this, they were just like, I'm not really a talker. I'm, more into creating, and I find that a lot of interesting people and musicians who make this kind of thing are very solitary.
I'm probably more solitary than most.
Yeah, exactly. You're very into watching your documentaries or just being alone, doing your own thing,
people
learning.
People probably find me boring because I like to be alone and just either I work on music, play piano. I guess that's why people are not annoyed, but they're sad. None of us really play live, but I think it's a lot to do with our personality, and part of me wants to, because I want to travel and have adventures and meet people who like the same things. And
I couldn't see it being done in like a club, you know what I mean?
no, that would be almost degrading. The thing is, I live in Sweden. A lot of other Chillstep producers are European, and but it's America that has the best shows, and it's super expensive to go to America as well. Like, I don't really want people to, if my music would be played live, it's more like, let's just sit here an evening with the trees around and the stars, and let's just like talk to each other. Maybe not talk, because it's gonna be music, but like a gathering of thinkers.
What I think is like amazing about it is that there's very little like ego in it. A lot of people are used to music being about the artist, where it's like you go to see that artist.
Yeah, and that's why I don't use, you can see I don't use pictures of myself as a logo or anything, because it's not about me, it's just about the songs itself.
If I saw the cover of Animus, like I would listen to it, you know, because it's just this beautiful image of like the light shining through this, like it's like a dark forest, but it's not creepy, it's like mysterious.
I think the mystery feeling is one of the most important aspects of like the, I don't know, image of me or my music, because mystery creates like intrigue and like you want to know more. And like if you just have your face there, it's like, okay, who's this guy? That makes no sense. I mean, if you have a band, sure, but if you're a solo artist and you just make music because you love music, it's not just supposed to be about me. Killigrew is sort of like an alter ego. Sometimes I'm like, wait, did I make this music? Like, what? How did I learn to make this? When did it happen? When did it start? I don't know. Because deep down, I'm just like a nerdy gamer that likes to play multiplayer games, and oh wait, I make music on my free time, and it's pretty fun. I can't believe I have been so persistent. I look at my friends, and I shouldn't compare myself, but I see that I have actually worked really hard to learn to compose, but you don't think about it in the moment, because at the moment you're just doing your most like fun hobby, and if you do your most fun hobby for a few years, you get better at it.
You've sampled Alan Watts in a few songs, like Timeless as the Waves. I mean, obviously, like Alan Watts, I feel like has become the sort of unofficial spokesperson of Chillstep. What do you feel like this sort of like role of sampling or Alan Watts is in the music in general?
I actually listen to almost, not all, but most of his seminars for hours and hours. I'm just listening while I work in FL Studio. Making music. I can listen to him because it helps me get in the right mindset.
Yeah,
I like to hear people talk, and I'm very interested in people. Like when I watch documentaries, if it's not about history, I like to watch about people, like biographies. So I like to hear people talk about their lives, and his life in like when he's been studying Zen and Buddhist is really interesting for me. But I think when I first heard him in music, it was probably one of Electus Chillstep songs.
Yeah.
Maybe Who We Are or another one. But at that time, he was the only one that I heard with Alan Watts, and it made me go and download his seminars and listen to them. And then I tried to, I guess Timeless as the Waves were the first song I used it in, and keep in mind I only used Alan Watts 4 times, so some people act like I've used it like 20 times and overused it, but I don't. It's like 4 times max.
It's fine. You hear them everywhere, and everybody loves them, so...
I tried to find the perfect sample, and that's in the Timeless song when it speaks about love, and when I tried to put it there, it just felt like, okay, this hit home.
Yeah.
I like that people don't expect it because it's in the end of the song. I think that's one of my favorite things to do in music. I want to surprise the listener. I don't want things to be obvious. The speech is in the ending, and you don't really expect it, so it hits even harder than emotionally. I remember it was like a year ago, someone wrote me on Facebook with the name Watts, and it was actually Alan Watts' son. Wrote to me and said he was really approving of what I was doing with his father's speeches. I mean, Alan Watts was like a god to me, and his son wrote me, and it felt really good to have like their approval, like the Watts family.
We are playing a game, and the game runs like this. The only thing you really know is what you can put into words. Let's suppose I love some girl rapturously, and somebody says to me, would you really love her? Well, how am I going to prove this? Well, say, write poetry. Tell us all how much you love her, and we'll believe you. So if I'm an artist and I can put this into words and convince everybody that I've written the most ecstatic love letters ever written, they say, all right, okay, we'll admit it, you really do love her. But supposing you're not very articulate, are we going to tell you you don't love her?
Chillstep has been really kind to me, I think, because I have released about 10 to 15 songs a year, which means I've been pretty consistent. It seems that people have no problem replaying my older albums, and it gives them a lot of like longevity.
Yeah.
And that's more than I could ever ask for. Like, if they still like my music in 10 years, then I consider myself successful. Time will tell whose music is the most memorable. Like, it's not a competition, music isn't about that. A lot of people are really like, oh, I bet you've seen it, a lot of musicians are really competitive. I'm competitive, but mostly in games and like sports and stuff, but in music, I was never competitive.
It's so easy to get wrapped up in that mentality of competing with others.
Sure, I'm guilty of sometimes getting like a bit too focused on that, and then I'm thinking like, this guy's doing that, and I'm thinking, am I good enough to try that? Am I good enough to try to achieve the same thing?
I guess it's kind of hard when you don't play live shows to feel a physical connection to the audience.
Yeah, that is really, I guess, tough for me. My only connection to audience is comments. Most people don't even comment, they just listen and maybe leave like a like, and then they listen, and I have no idea if it was good or bad for them. And I only know like the hardcore, only really know the hardcore few who comment. And then like we go to my Spotify, and they actually over 60,000 people per month listening. I'm like, whoa, who are these people?
I think that's like another reason why it would be great if there was some sort of like Chillstep live experience.
Yeah.
It has such a strong community, but it's all online.
Yeah. The best reward I've gotten is actually when people make a cover of my music, like piano cover or something. That's really like emotional for me. To hear someone play my melodies.
Especially for them to take the time to like actually like transcribe it, you know?
It's like my legacy. I know it's weird, but I think it's very human to want to make a legacy for yourself. Like, this is me, this is what I made, like it can be anything. I did this and this made my life important, it made my life worth living. For me, that's the albums, and yeah, the first one, Immortal Love, then Liquid Hearts, Sweet Solitude, Animus, The Lost Chapter, and Animus 2, and that's my journey, that's like my record history in a way. I'm also thinking that in 1,000 years, who's gonna care? Who's gonna care at all then? Humans might not even exist. So I get depressed sometimes because I'm thinking that at one point I'm not gonna exist anymore. I'm gonna be like dust somewhere, and that makes me really feel really bad. And I'm thinking, why am I working so hard for like a blink in the universe? Why am I working so hard for something that's not gonna exist at some point in time? It's really weird and bittersweet, but it's also very human, I think. For me, humans on Earth, we do everything we can, like in the blink of an eye, that we exist, and somehow you can manage to echo for thousands of years with statues and monuments, pyramids, buildings, and like that's how it is to be human. Why do people make statues and pyramids? And they don't want their lives to be like for nothing, I guess. They want people to look back and think, here existed a person that want us to consider him or her, you know. I mean, I realized that at some point nobody is gonna know who I am, and that's fine. I mean, there's billions of us. But if at least maybe like maybe in 50 years, if people still somehow hold my name in high regard and they still like a reminiscence of some of my songs, then that's gonna be worth it. And that's why I make albums, because that's my monuments.
Hello everyone, that's our episode with Killigrew. If you would like to hear more of his music, check out Killigrew Chillstep on SoundCloud, and look for Killigrew on Bandcamp, iTunes, and Spotify. To hear this and all of our other music, check out The Conscious Vibe on YouTube and SoundCloud, and stay tuned for future episodes where I'm going to try to get a lot more interesting guests. If you would like to join in on the conversation, feel free to join our Facebook group, The Conscious Vibe Tribe. Just search for that on Facebook and you'll find our group. Our show is sponsored by Burke Superfoods, and you can find their wide array of nutritional and health supplements. Everything from vegan protein powder to chia seeds can be found on apollogenesis.com. Use the coupon code STAYCONSCIOUS to get 10% off at apollogenesis.com. Until next time, have a great weekend, everybody.